Hey everyone, in this video we are going to review the HVAC specifications, and in all of these short videos we are reviewing the specifications because, as you know, you are supposed to review the specifications first, take notes, and then look at the construction documents where you'll take your measurements, and that will assist you in we take the measurements so we can equate those measurements with cost. Okay, and so typically in the specifications, there are things that may be there that are not in the construction documents. And so, what's the purpose of the specifications again? They give us the means and methods of our construction, or our scope of work, and it also gives us information about the material. And so, for instance, this is specifically for HVAC. Well, the HVAC professional needs to know what size gauge of sheet metal is to be used. That's definitely going to be pinpointed in the specifications. And so, if you are a Patreon member, you get a copy of this in the subscription, and I give you a separate video for your scope of work to show you how to navigate through it, because again, this is the master format, and this has everything and all the numbers and everything related to anything in construction. And so this is the master form where you're going to look at this, know this very well, and then all of the numbers in your real specifications will line up. Okay, and so let's take a look at this. Let's dive into this right now, and let's take these words off too, because that's kind of annoying. All right, so remember, in the upper left hand corner we have this magnifying glass, and so it's going to help us, and then our search engine pops up on the right side. So let me just put in HVAC. Okay, and remember, when we do that, it's going to pop up everything in the master format that references HVAC. Excuse me. I always have to cough once I start. I think you get it out, but you don't. All right, so 01 is what? Let's go up and see what that is. The first place that HVAC shows up for us in our specifications. So we want to go all the way up to 010000, and then we're going to come back down to that because we want to know, okay, execution and closeout requirements. Okay, so the first place that the master format mentions HVAC in that vein is in that division or that separate section. Okay, and so if that's there, if 018619 is there, you want to make sure you review that. And then the master format, again, it's going to give us everywhere in here where we see what I put in the search. And it looks here, if we look at the upper right, there are 71 different instances. And so for your quiz, for your estimating class, I would tell you that you would be doing a particular scope of work, and you would have to tell me what, not the main division, but which actual division, because I'm going to give you something that's very specific. So let's see where the next time, site HVAC utilities, performance requirements, that's 018900, and then the main division for HVAC is 230000. That way, you know, when you look in, you know, the specification is going to have many sheets. This is the more master format. It has 186 sheets. And so, you know, when you get your specifications, these are just the titles of the divisions, right? They're going to be pages in between. And so you'll get quite a number of them. So you, as the HVAC professional, need to just put in the back of your mind, if you're not familiar with always looking at your specifications first, especially if you work on government projects, it's going to be a very detailed set of specifications. And so you want to know where to go. So your main division is 230000. Make sure you have your copy, you've downloaded it from our Patreon site if you're a Patreon member, and if you are not, make sure you go there immediately so you can become part of our program, and you can become quicker and faster and smarter when you're doing your work. All right, thanks a lot, and I will talk to you soon. Hey everyone, in this recording we're going to review an HVAC renovation. We had some existing HVAC that had to be demoed, and so sometimes when you have that, you have to be mindful of what's to remain and how you connect the existing to the new work. And so here they're representing everything here to be demoed in this fashion, the black here and all of that. But what we're going to keep is the main ductwork that connects from the unit to all of the branch and all of the supply grills. We're going to connect all of that to new stuff. And so here's all of our new work. Here's all the existing ductwork that's there. And so just like with any HVAC plan, we're going to separate all of the straight runs, and we have 10-inch spiral, 8-inch spiral, where those are connected to the existing ductwork. And so you have to be mindful of each point that's being connected to the existing, account for the additional ductwork and the additional time and material it's going to take to connect that. Okay, and so our straight runs, all of our 90s based on that type of ductwork, so a 10 spiral, 10 spiral and 90 for that. And then they're also showing us our flex ductwork, and so I just measured that out. And here from the details, it's just the flex ductwork connect directly to the supply grills. But what you have to make sure you do is each of the supply grills are broken down based on the size of the neck. So the neck size here we have, it's going to go with the size of the ductwork. So that's going to be a 10-inch neck size 2x2 supply grill. X is supply grill. And this number indicates CFMs, right? The amount of cubic feet of air through the supply grill per minute. And so that's what you'll always see there. So just account for the 90s. Make sure you have this is a 6-inch spiral. So make sure you account for the 6-inch neck size. Because again, the prices of the supply grills are going to differ based on the neck size. Okay, so this one's pretty different. A lot different, but pretty easy. The only thing you have to do is account for, in addition to all of the straight runs, all of the 90s, all of the supply grills, all of the flex work, is the cost for the additional, the new ductwork to be adjusted and adapted to connect to the existing supply run. And then just a quick look at the estimate. Quick look at the estimate, and let me take myself off of there. Okay, and so let's make it a little bigger. Bigger this way. All right, too big. All right, and so what we have here are spiral 8-6, and then all the 90s that go with it. And remember, these cost unit numbers come from a cost book that will give you very detailed information on what is that cost unit. It's how long it takes to install one unit. So in this case, 1 linear foot of 8-inch round ductwork. Okay. And so you want to always, this is the key for me, and I'll say it every time I teach a class. You want to make sure you have a cost book that's going to give you man-hour units based on the industry standards. That way you're very tight when it comes to your man-hours and how long it's going to take you to complete a scope of work. And then if you're accurate with your man-hours, you're fair with your hourly rate, and you're very accurate with your takeoff numbers, you're going to be right up there with number 1, 2, or 3 in your GC's chosen, subs. And so how we break everything down, everything's created by our very detailed Excel spreadsheet. We have all of the ductwork runs, all of the 90s, that's first. And then the equipment, okay, this is all renovation. And so we want to give some amount of time to balance the existing work, okay, existing units. And then we have one new exhaust fan. And then here are all of our grills and registers. Okay, cost include dampers and two. So the different prices depending on neck size. For some reason, the 10 was cheaper. I don't know why that is. But, and then our flex work, our flex duct work. And again, these we get from our cost book, so we know exactly how long it's going to take. And then once we add all of this all the way down, right, we know exactly how long our whole job is going to take us. Okay, and we always want to include lining on the ductwork because the price that we indicate above does not include lining. And then here are the allowances to adapt those ductwork sizes to the existing. Okay, and then we put a spot in here for the permit, additional costs for a lift, and then we let the contractor input their overhead and profit. So if you are in need of any type of Excel spreadsheet specialized for your scope of work, let us know. Okay, and so this is a renovation HVAC. You know, you always have to make sure you adjust your plan for what is there. So I would suggest if you're new to the HVAC profession, you go and look into our playlist, and I'll put the card up there so you can access it easy, so you can watch. You know, you become a good estimator just by doing more and more. You know, and I tried to show all of the different types. And this week, if you're in our construction masters, we're going to be completing America's Best, a Joann's, a Hampton Inn, which is going to be nice, all the scopes. So that's going to be really big, and a lot of examples of a lot of good takeoff work, pricing work, man-hour work. So stick with us. Give us your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Okay, so in this video, we are going to focus on looking at the equipment schedule and how we incorporate the items that are there onto your estimate. And the good thing about the HVAC plan is that all the equipment that you'll need is on the schedules. So even if it's the same equipment, you know, all you got to do is take that list directly from the equipment schedule onto your estimate, which we'll go over the format a little later. Makes life really easy for you. And the only thing that I would caution is that when they give you the grill sizes, those are the things you have to make sure, because as you know, the pricing is based on the neck size. And so when you're doing your takeoff, you have to look at the grills and see if they're all the same neck size, which they're probably not. So you're going to have to do your takeoff based on, you know, you'll have to do multiple, you may have multiple 8-inch grill or multiple 24 by 24 grills, but with 8-inch neck size, 6-inch neck size, 12-inch, 16. And so if it's not clear on the plan, basically you're just going to see what size ductwork is running to that grill, and then you can probably, for the purpose of your estimate, assume that that is the next size of the grill. So let me take my picture off and go ahead and start to look at the equipment. All right, so this is for a really huge, this was what, a auto body shop. So of course, you know, an auto body shop is going to have a ton of HVAC air blowers of every kind and all different. So that's why I kind of chose this one to do our review. And you'll notice in the full review of this, basically this study guide for your HVAC estimating, we are looking at sheets from different plans, right? Different projects. And so, you know, that shouldn't make a difference for the purpose of analyzing them, you know, it really doesn't make a difference because I want to point out the most important things. So, but you know, you do have your 4 full estimates to begin to do the takeoff on, and you know, each one gets harder and harder. And so that's really what you want to focus on, are the really the steps that we take to produce a good takeoff. In your case, for the HVAC professional, you know, you really have to pay good attention to the elbows and the 90s and the 45s, and when the ductwork goes up to the roof or goes down, you know, even though it's not clearly shown on the plans, you have to make sure that you account for those 90s too. So that's part of the takeoff. So I just want to reiterate. So this is a huge auto body facility. So these are the different, you know, you have your equipment schedule. So all of the different types. And so what you really want to do when you are getting your equipment from your supplier, that it's going to tell us everything about each of the pieces of equipment, but you want to take particular attention to the note section. And it looks like these are 1 through 13. So every one of these, you know, applies. And so, you know, this, when it comes to the specialty equipment, I mean, really, you need to scan those specifications in terms of the equipment, because the owner may supply everything and then you just have to do the install. But if you do have to facilitate all of the material and or the not material, but the equipment, if you have to facilitate that, getting the equipment together and all that, then definitely you need to go through all of these notes with a fine tooth comb and make sure that you have everything there for every piece. Okay, so the multi split systems, what notes apply, see below. So I would assume every note applies, and make sure the accessories that you get correspond to all these notes. Okay, and again, when it comes to the material for the HVAC, reading your specifications is going to be key, because there'll be some things there that you need to take particular attention to that may not be on the plans, and you don't want to mess that up. And so you're going to read all your general notes. And again, hopefully the owner will save you some time by supplying all of this themselves and save you a lot of headaches. So, all right. So just make sure you go through everything. And usually when I do an estimate, I'm just going to go directly from this sheet, because all the equipment's going to be here. Okay, so it's a lot of different stuff. Then we continue, because it's a big place. Okay, all the notes. And when you're doing the equipment takeoff, basically that's a whole different takeoff. Yes, we have the equipment, but then we want to keep in mind the notes and what we need to get in conjunction with the equipment. Okay, so especially when it's a big job like this one. Okay, so equipment, very important. I would say, especially for larger chains, they have suppliers, as you know, and you want to make sure you contact the supplier and note everything here in the notes so you don't leave anything out. Okay, so if you have any questions on this, make sure you contact me and let me know. But yes, this will be part of our, you know, we have many parts in our 3-step process, right? The takeoff, well, the equipment takeoff is just as important. Making sure you follow all the equipment schedule notes so you don't leave out anything. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I look forward to seeing your first, second, third, and fourth estimate. All right, see you at the next class. All right, so in this video, I'm going to emphasize the importance of making sure that you have a uh, standard cost book that you're using, and not just using just a guess when it comes to our man hour totals, because that's very important on being very detailed on your estimate and really getting in there and getting a bare bones estimate. It's very important that you have a standardized way of determining man hours. And so just want to go through what we use for our clients' craftsman cost book. It's good in a couple of ways. And if you use it correctly, you can really use it to produce your entire estimate. So let me get that started. All right. So what we're going to do in the class, we're going to give you a PDF copy of the pricing for different things so you can complete your estimate. And you can also have the man hour numbers. Okay. And so, what do I mean by man hours? So, again, I can't emphasize enough that in order to be competitive, it's really important that you have a standardized way to determine how long a job's going to take, basically determine how many man hours, because that's going to determine your labor cost. And so I always recommend using a standardized way, in the way that we've always used. We use Craftsman Cost Book. It is a cost book, but more than that, it's a man hour calculator, because we can tell it how many linear feet of every size ductwork, and it'll shoot out how many man hours it's going to take for you to install that. And so you can very accurately determine your labor cost. Okay, and so you can imagine for different types of ductwork, spiral, the different sizes, the different types and configurations of rectangular ductwork, there are different amounts of time that the construction industry says it takes for a contractor to install those things, let alone the grills. There's an amount of time they determine for that. There's an amount of time they have determined for every type of mechanical, rooftop unit, whatever. Okay, so it's very important. And I think that's key to being very competitive in your estimating, and what we've proven to be a magic ticket, right? And again, you don't want to just have to go by experience to determine how long a job is going to take. So you can therefore schedule your months. How many jobs can you do in a month? Well, if you can't determine how many man hours a job is going to take, you're just really guessing from month to month, and that's not really a good way to do business. But if you have a standardized way of determining how many man hours a job is going to take, it's going to be very easy for you to change those man hours into how many employees, and be able to determine everything, vacations, everything. Okay, and so we give you a photocopy, or a PDF. I'm sorry, photocopy. I'm old. A PDF of the different prices, and what we see here is a galvanized steel 10-inch rectangular duct or 90-degree elbow. So we have lists for all of the possible types of ductwork and sizes. So we give you that. And here is the size, and here, if you can see that in this presentation, that's the material cost, but the number, and you'll have the PDF, so you'll be able to see it very clear, but the number after the @ sign is the man hour total, meaning that's what portion of an hour it takes to install one unit. And with ductwork, a unit is 1 linear foot. And so if you know how many linear feet, then you can determine how long it's going to take you to do your complete job, because we have that same information for everything in construction: ductwork, grills, equipment, insulation, everything. Okay, and so just know That needs to be something you think about on every job. It helps to, if you have a cost book, you can just shoot out these estimates, because if you are doing this competitively, and I always recommend, you should always have three levels of income when it comes to what you do: commercial, residential, and some service contracts. And so, in order to be efficient in getting those estimates out for even the residential commercial, you got to have a way of instantly getting some cost, getting demo costs, getting material costs and labor and all that. You just have to. And so this is a way to do it. So if you need further information on how to get your own copy of Craftsman, let me know. We can figure that out together. But if you are a member of our Patreon or our Estimators Corner on our website, or if you are one of my students, an estimating student, you will receive, the calculators, as part of our training. So, just remember that's what's going to definitely set you far above the rest by being able to accurately determine your man hours. So you know how long a job's going to take, you know how much labor to charge, and you don't short yourself. Okay, so make sure to take a class, join our Patreon or one of our estimators memberships that we have at our website. We're here to make you better. So hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you subscribe and like it so people just like you, can get this information as well. So have a good evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, so in this video, we are going to review the way that we like to format the HVAC estimates, and just going to go over a review of Craftsman Cost Book, where we get our valuable man hour total numbers, and it assists us in a good way in making sure we have very tight, very detailed, very bare bones estimates. So we're going to go over the formatting of the Excel spreadsheet, for which you will receive a master copy, and we'll go over how you go about editing it, because every project, of course, is going to be different. And when it comes to HVAC, you're going to have a lot of different sizes of ductwork, and there's no one master format for HVAC that would work for every project. And so you're going to have to learn how to modify your Excel spreadsheet and keep it in line, and not mess with the equations. And so we'll go over that in a separate video and together. So look for the link for I'm going to give you a sample, and then want you to save that sample, and then we'll work on how to adjust it. So I'm going to take my beautiful face off of here, and we're going to look at, and let's take off these words too. We're going to look at the Excel spreadsheet the way that we like to put it together. So all right, so we have the new work, of course, it's always going to be new work. And then what we try to do is all of the linear totals, and then if we have any 90s or 45s, kind of group them together all together in that same little grouping. So all of the spiral ductwork by the linear foot, and then everything else in all the 90s or whatever. Okay, and so you have a vast array of the different types of ductwork sizes. So that's how we like to keep it all orderly. We can see everything that's here. Okay, and so that's all the ductwork. And then the next section would be all of the equipment from our equipment schedules. Just whatever it has there, we put it there. I put it all in red because I that's a clue to make sure we verify those equipment costs. Okay, so this was a huge one of those auto body shops. After that, we have all of the grills and all of the louvers and all of those types of things, and very detailed, how many of each, and then miscellaneous permit, ductwork lining, you know, and then a lift, and I did say permit, and then we include our overhead and profit, whatever we think is appropriate. Okay, so this is the general format for the Excel spreadsheet for HVAC. You can add or delete whatever you feel is appropriate, and you only want to put on your cost estimate what is reflected on the plans. You don't want to add anything based on past experience or past GC experience or anything like that. You want to keep it very bare bones and tight, and this is a way to present it in a very uniform and accurate looking way. Now, if we look at the Excel spreadsheet, we'll go back and how each line is created. So this is our quantity, right? Our takeoff total, how many linear feet, our cost from the cost book. And so this Excel spreadsheet is going to do our math for our material. And then we put in what our base rate is for the HVAC professional, base labor rate. And this number, the cost unit, comes directly from the Craftsman cost book. I am a firm believer in using a cost book that will provide you with the correct man-hour totals. Man-hour units, meaning the construction industry knows how long it takes to do every job in construction just because of research and over the years and whatever. And so if we want to be competitive, we want to make sure that our numbers are based on something real, something that's tangible, something that probably most people don't do that are in this industry, especially just learning it and just trying to get a job. You really don't focus on the more technical aspects of putting the number together. And so that's what we're teaching you here is our labor is based on something, not just how much we need to make for that job or whatever. And most contractors honestly short themselves by not following industry standard when it comes to the labor. Okay, and so where do we get those numbers? The cost unit numbers. Basically, that's what the industry says, the amount of time it takes to install one unit. So a unit could be each grill, or each linear foot of ductwork, or each pretty much with us is either linear feet of ductwork or each grill or each unit. Okay, and so we use cost book. Okay, so let's just say this is just an example: galvanized steel, 72-inch rectangular duct, 20 gauge. Well, it's giving us the price for a 72 by 18 through 20. This is how much it is per linear foot, and then the number after the @ sign here is our cost unit. So it's telling us that the construction industry says it takes, for that very first 1 hour. So that these are the man hours, what portion of a man hour. So it's 1 for that very first one. So it takes an hour to install 1 linear foot of that type of ductwork. So when we produce our estimates, we know that we are basing our labor hours on industry standards, which I feel makes you a more accurate bidder based on something. And like I said, most contractors tend to short themselves because they don't do it this way. Okay, and so you'll get a lot of practice for the 4 estimates. You'll get practice in adjusting the Excel spreadsheet, because you have to, depending on your project, and you will have a PDF copy, or I'm not sure, you may have or be given the man-hour calculators. So you'll have that, but you will certainly have a PDF, a very long PDF for pricing for all of your projects. So you'll be able to go just like I did to the cost book. We have PDF copies of all the prices that you need relevant to the projects that we're working on. So you don't have to worry about that. You'll have at least the cost per linear foot, and the man hour unit. And that's very important. So when you do your own work, make sure you have some standard by which you know your man hour rate. I would suggest Craftsman Cost Book, very cheap. It's updated every year. It's active. They change the price and everything based on, what's going on, and it's an active software. So, but even if you, well, it's excellent to use for material, but more importantly, for your labor costs, because you want to be able to determine how long a job is going to take. You want to be able to determine that. So when you're working for your GC, you'll be able to tell, you'll be able to schedule your year, because, and we'll work on that. I mean, when we looked at the Excel spreadsheet here, and we'll look in detail in class, and when you have your office hours with me, we'll go over that. So if we have 115 man hours based on our Excel spreadsheet, how do we convert that into how many days we're going to be on this job? And that's based on a few things. How many people are going to be on the job. Each person should be able to give an 8-hour day. And then we start to chunk down the hours based on that alone. So we'll go over that as well, so you have a good understanding of that. And I would recommend taking some classes on a project management end, where now we have this estimate we've created. How do we break it down cost-wise and hourly-wise on a day-by-day basis, so you can produce a construction schedule? Okay, and so if you have any questions on this is part of your study set for your HVAC estimating. Let me know. Email me at education@sfjohnsonconsulting.com. Otherwise, move on to the next section. And remember, this is for you. And repeat as many times as you need to, and ask me questions. And I will see you at the next class.